Thank you both. Secretary Blinken, for you, despite your intense efforts to pressure Hamas, they obviously don't seem to be accepting the deal as President Biden laid out, and the Israelis are characterizing this as a flat-out rejection. Does Hamas's response count as a rejection of the deal in your view? Do you think the deal is essentially dead? And if not, what exactly is the U.S. diplomatic strategy now to try and keep these talks alive and bring the parties closer together? And secondly, the U.S. has put all the emphasis on pressuring Hamas, at least publicly. But do you think it might be time for the U.S. to put more pressure on Israel to move them closer towards accepting the permanent ceasefire that Hamas has asked for, even if that allows the group to survive in some form? And Prime Minister, even with the elaborate three-phase deal that's being created to try and bridge the divide between Israel and Hamas, we still seem to be stuck on the fundamental question of a temporary versus a permanent truce, which is effectively, will Israel allow Hamas to survive this? Do you think these negotiations can really be salvaged, and what is the risk to the region if these talks continue to fail? Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. Look, as I said, based on what we saw last night, the response from Hamas, numerous changes proposed to the deal that was on the table and that the entire world has gotten behind, but some of those are workable changes. Some, as I said, are not. I don't want to characterize it further, but, you know, at some point in a negotiation, and this has gone back and forth for a long time, you get to a point where if one side continues to change its demands, including making demands and insisting on changes for things that it already accepted, you have to question whether they're proceeding in good faith or not. But based on what we've seen and what I've discussed with the Prime Minister and what we discussed with our Egyptian colleagues, we're determined to try to bridge the gaps. And I believe those gaps are bridgeable. Doesn't mean they will be bridged because, again, it ultimately depends on people saying yes. But here's the thing, and we both said it. The longer this goes on, and remember, Hamas had this for 12 days, and it's not as if the world stood still in those 12 days. People were suffering throughout those 12 days. The longer this goes on, the more people will suffer. And it's time for the haggling to stop and a ceasefire to start. It's as simple as that. Look, Israel accepted the proposal as it was and as it is. Hamas didn't. So I think it's pretty clear what needs to happen. And we're determined in the coming days to, again, try to work this. We will work this with urgency and see if the gaps that are workable, we can actually work and bring it to conclusion. And then it may be that Hamas continues to say no. Well, I think it will be clear to everyone around the world that it's on them and that they will have made a choice to continue a war that they started.
Regarding, I think, your question about how can we have this proposal to become a permanent ceasefire, this is an issue that we've been struggling with for a very long time, is how to ensure that we bridge the gap between those two fundamental differences between what Hamas wants as a permanent ceasefire and what Israel wants as a hostage release and maybe a plan to continue the war. I think what we have achieved in this structure is the best way to bridge those gaps and to merge both tracks. And I believe that having three countries, United States, Qatar, and Egypt, as guarantor for this process to ensure that these negotiations keeps going until we reach the permanent ceasefire is something significant that we are putting ourselves at stake. Of course, this is, as we mentioned many times, it's not an easy process. It's a very complex negotiations. We are negotiating, yes, to end the conflict that started on October 7th. I think that it has a lot of baggage that came with as well. And basically what we are trying to focus on is to achieve the result that's been created after October 7 right now, and thinking about the rest of the issue for once we have this deal in place. But as of all of us, we reiterate, this is having a deal and a ceasefire right now is a cornerstone for our way forward in the future.
السؤال الثالث أسامة جابد الجزيرة الإنجليزية.